It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knutson.
Hey,
as we get ready to sit down, have some beer, and talk about what movies we've seen lately, as well as looking into the new releases that are coming up later on this week. We'll also touch base on a little bit of a physical media roundup, and also look into notable developments within the world of movies. But first, Corey, how have you been, and what are we drinking today?
we're drinking again. You're done with the marathon?
I'm done with my marathon, so I get to fucking finally have one of my favorite beers, because it's only found in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we got Spotted Cow, famous Wisconsin beer. We always get it anytime we go over. I used to live in Duluth, so we always go over to Superior, get some Spotted Cow. It's great stuff. It's farmhouse ale produced by New Glarus Brewing out of New Glarus, Wisconsin, which I've never been to New Glarus, but very, very good beer. Pretty easy drink, too.
Oh, yeah.
It goes great with a $5 burger at Anchor Bar.
Yep, which is exactly what we did. I finished up my marathon. My wife and I had the same game plan as we did last year after I finished the marathon of, all right, let's collect everyone in our group. What do you want from Anchor? We're going to order it. It's a small Wisconsin bar, which has really cheap but phenomenal burgers. We got everyone's order, got a bunch of Spotted Cow, went back to our friend's house, ate, and then I had a milkshake later that night. I had like 6 beers, and then I fell asleep. It was the best ending of a day where I ran a marathon. It was just fantastic. So, being able to drink Spotted Cow, what I had left, what I brought back from Duluth to the cities, can't wait to polish off another fucking can of this.
Yeah. There's the one waitress at Anchor Bar, too, who's just an older lady that I think has been there forever.
Awesome.
She is the coolest person, but she does not take any shit from anyone.
Love it.
There will be, like, outsiders that come in. They're trying to fuck around. She's like, what do you want? Like, order or get out.
Yeah.
And she's great.
We were there one time sitting up at the bar, and these 2 other guys were like mid-20s, or mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s, that were definitely there on like a business trip. And they were like talking the entire time, like, I wonder where, like, all the tour spots, like, where should we go? Like, what's a good bar? Like, and then they're asking this, like, older waitress, like, hey, where's a good place to get food? And she's like, I don't know, the grocery store. What do you want? And I'm like, damn. Okay, let's be nice to her.
No shit.
Just does not take it.
Yeah.
She gives it, and she's awesome. But yeah, Anchor Bar, if you're ever in the Superior area, go there. Also get Spotted Cow, because they serve that definitely within Anchor, and it is, they'll give it to you in a nice little frosted pitcher in a glass. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's like $3 pitchers and $5 burgers. It's incredible.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
But anyway, we saw a bunch of movies this week.
We did see a lot of movies. So this was the week of 28 years later. So I went back and I rewatched 28 Days Later, which I'd seen most of it, I think. It had been a long time, and so it was a good rewatch. And then I watched 28 Weeks Later for the first time. And 28 Days Later is one of my favorite zombie movies. I know it's one of yours as well.
Number 2.
Yeah. So I really enjoy this movie. Danny Boyle directed it, and Alex Garland was the writer. And they've obviously, after this movie, went on to both do a lot of great things and get nominated for a lot of awards. And essentially, the kicking off point of the movie is scientists are experimenting on monkeys, and the rage virus is in them, and they get loose, and then a virus spreads throughout the United Kingdom. Just the British fucks.
Yeah.
Nobody else. No. Just contained to there. And yeah, zombie apocalypse starts, and we pick up with Cillian Murphy waking up in a hospital, and then just trying to survive in the apocalypse. And it's great, and it's a very gritty and grimy looking movie.
Yeah.
Danny Boyle really had a distinct style with a lot of Dutch angles in the movie, which I enjoy. And he teams up with Naomi Harris and Brendan Gleeson, also in the movie, and his daughter. And we just see them kind of on this road trip movie, essentially, through the zombie apocalypse. And as they're trying to get to this military base where they say that they have a cure and, kind of a safe haven, but they find out stuff later on that may not all be true. But I love this movie. I think it's great. And there's so many great tense sequences. One of my favorites is when they're in a car and one of the tires is flat and they're in this tunnel, and then you just hear the zombies running, and like you see their shadows on the walls. They're trying to change this tire, and they're like lifting up the car because they don't have time to jack it up. Just a lot of great stuff like that. And then once they get to the military base at the end too, Christopher Eccleston is like the general there, and there's a lot of great action there. They're just mowing down zombies like in this yard, and so really, really love this movie, and kind of kicked off another zombie craze, I feel like,
Yeah.
in 2002 of, like, the fast zombies.
Yeah, this was the first time in movies that zombies were, like, really terrifying to me. My favorite zombie movie of all time is Night of the Living Dead. Just 'cause I think that's a really well-done film, and it has a lot of good, like, social commentary. And it's just a good movie. It's very effective. This is, like, the one time I was like, oh, shit, these are terrifying. The way they move, like, the quick cut, jagged-edged editing almost within, kind of all throughout this franchise, really works for me and helps to sell like the just unhinged nature of this rage virus and how it just really infects. And it's kind of refreshing to see zombies that aren't like the undead brain eating, that they're just ravenous and they're rabid and they're just running bitches down. So this movie is like a special place in my heart. I remember watching it and like immediately starting it, and you get like a lot of the cool iconography of like Cillian Murphy's character waking up. And he's going through London, and like the streets are empty, and he's just like, "What the fuck happened? Like, where is everyone who's in a coma?" And he doesn't know what's going on, and then he just like stumbles into this zombie outbreak, and it's so cool and it's awesome, but it just is so unsettling. And I remember starting it being like, I don't know if the style of this, like the look of it, it just felt so like, I don't want to say cheap because it was so intentionally done. But it has such a distinct style that I think is really special to 28 Days Later. They keep a lot of like the camera angles, the shooting style similar throughout the franchise, I think. But in that first one, you kind of have that like grungy, grimy feel that you don't really get much throughout the rest of the franchise. I love 28 Days Later. It's one of my favorites. It's such a good movie. And I love Danny Boyle mostly because of this and Trainspotting, so...
Yeah, so it was great to give this one another watch. And then, like I said, I watched 28 Weeks Later for the first time, and I actually really enjoyed this movie too.
Underrated.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard a lot of middling things just throughout the years of people covering these movies. People being, yeah, it's not as good. And, like, yeah, it's not as good as the original. I think the main issue is that it takes a step down in direction because Danny Boyle didn't come back to do this one. There's a lot more shaky cam, and... that can work in, like, especially a zombie apocalypse movie, but it has to be done well, and there's not a lot of directors that can do it well. So that's really, like, my main issue with the movie, but I really liked that this kind of takes that jump to, like, the 6 months after that rage virus, or 28 weeks, and really it's just, like, the military trying to contain, and, like, the beginning of this movie, they have the rage virus, like, gone, and everything is kind of fine, and they're starting to rebuild. The U.S. comes in to help them out, and then these two dumbass kids go and like into the whatever the zone is, like the quarantine zone, whatever it is, and they find their mom and then bring her back, and it's like, oh, she actually has the virus too, and oh, it's spread again.
And now you fucked it up.
Yep. Okay, now we're all fucked. But there's a great scene where the virus starts to break out, and there's just hordes of people running out of a building, and some of them are infected and some aren't. And a bunch of snipers, one of them played by Jeremy Renner, they're on top of the roof, and they're like, we don't know who's infected and who's not. Like,
who do we shoot at?
And like they're trying to like pick them out as they're running out of this building. And then eventually Idris Elba, who's like the general in this movie, he's like, just all of them, just shoot all of them. Like, we can't take the risk.
Yeah.
And that scene is incredible. I really loved it. And just seeing like Jeremy Renner and Rose Byrne, she plays like a scientist, I believe it is, and just seeing them kind of trying to get these kids out of this just insane situation is a lot of fun. Like, it's a very constant movie, I think more so than 28 Days Later. Yeah. There's a lot of slower moments and just kind of sitting with the characters in Days Later, which I think makes it a better movie. Mm-hmm. But this one is more action heavy for sure. And spoiler alert for this movie that came out in 2007. I was surprised that Jeremy Renner and Rose Byrne both died. Like, they kind of like didn't give them their big like hero moment. It was just kind of like, oh fuck, he's just burning, and they have to move on. They have to keep going.
Yeah.
Rose Byrne just gets clocked in the subway with a gun, and I was like, oh, she's dead. It's just the kids now. Like, that kind of a bold move, and I dug that.
I really respect that, especially within this franchise, is that they have no regard for like people having that like big heroic final moment. It's just boom, in passing. Like, we're moving on. You're done. You're out of the game, or you're infected. Boom, we have to keep going. We're gonna get fucked over if we wait and simmer with this for too long. I love the opening to 28 Weeks Later. I think it is I think that is the best part of the movie, and I do overall really enjoy it, and I think it has a lot of like strong suits, and it is kind of more of like an action spin on it, whereas the 28 Days Later is, you get more time with the characters, and you get to like see the kind of effects of this outbreak, whereas this one is just like, all right, how do we combat this? How do we suppress it? How do we, and then eventually, hopefully, move past it? But I think the opening is so good, and it just... you just see how scummy people can be to just them trying to get out in front of this outbreak, trying to get away, trying to escape it, and it's just like, oh fuck, yeah, I get that, but damn, that's bad.
It is so. It's not like supposed to be funny, but the kind of what you're referencing, the dad in the movie, Robert Carlyle, that opening scene where he like leaves his wife as like all the zombies are in this house and he's just running away, and then we flash forward a little bit, and then his kids are the ones that go to the zone or whatever and find their mom, and they come back and they're like, yeah, we found mom, and he's like, you found who? Sorry. After like lying to them.
Did she say anything?
Yeah. Did she remember?
What did she talk about?
She know?
Did she tell you guys anything?
Just dude caught in a lie.
She tell you guys anything? Like,
it was like really funny, but also just like a scummy dude who's just like getting his comeuppance.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. I really like 28 Weeks Later. I think it's a really solid movie, and I'm a little confused on the ending of that movie and like if it actually is canon, because at the end like the zombies are going to Paris now.
Yeah.
And then we jump to 28 Years Later, which came out this past week. And again, they just say like in the opening text, like it's contained to the UK again.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I guess they could have controlled it by the end of that movie and just got it back to the UK. It's a little unclear, I guess.
Yeah, it felt like they tried to redirect the franchise, at least going into 28 Years Later, which we both saw this week. We both were really excited about. But within that first like kind of title font, I immediately thought that too. I was like, I remember them like the 28 Weeks Later. The thing that stands out aside from the opening is the ending of like they're everywhere now. They're getting out, and going into Paris, and you get that the Eiffel Tower and all that, and it's like, oh, like fuck, this is gonna ruin everything. In this movie, they kind of course correct a little bit to try and fit it into what they're telling, which, like, I can forgive that a bit. But it's like, it's done in passing, where it's like, I feel like we could have spent a little bit more time to just say, like, how we reined it in, basically.
Yeah, just a line or two would have been fine.
Yeah.
But, 28 Years Later, coming after 2007, how many years is that to 2025? 18, that's crazy. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland coming back to write and direct this movie, and you've got a great cast in here: Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ray Fiennes, Jodie Comer, Jack O'Connell, and Alfie Williams, who plays the young kid in this movie. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
I think this is the first thing I've seen him in, and he was really solid. And like you can guess from the title, this is 28 years after that rage virus started. And it's a group of survivors that are living on this island right off the coast of the UK, and it's connected by a land bridge. Yeah, and it's their kind of quarantine zone. They've started a little civilization, a little colony, and they don't really ever go to the mainland that much except for some hunting stuff. And one of the things that I really loved about this movie is that you see the evolution of like people making their civilizations again, but also of the zombies or the infected. And you see like there's an alpha zombie in here who's just terrifying and huge.
What they gave him a name too, and I don't remember. Was it like
Shaq?
No, he's the size of Shaq. He's massive in more ways than one. If you watch the movie, you'll watch and you'll be like, "This dude's big," and then you'll look below the belt and you're like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is happening?" But yeah, so I feel like it was like Abel or something, or Abraham.
Something like that.
It was Ray Fiennes' character has a distinct name for him because like he spends more time on the mainland with these kind of how they hunt in packs with the infected and the rage virus. But yeah, that was such a surprise to me.
Yeah,
seeing big bitch.
He's just huge. Yeah. But so seeing him and then seeing kind of like the infected that we've seen before, and then you see like these really big ones that are just like they're only crawling and they're just trying to live off like worms and dirt and all this stuff. So I like seeing the kind of evolution in that sense. And overall, I really like this movie. I think we're both pretty much in the same boat of liking this movie. Have a few issues with it. My favorite sequence in the movie is Aaron Taylor Johnson takes his son, played by Alfie Williams, out to the mainland as his kind of first hunt. And
because like this community has a supply run that they do, and they have like this practice of, okay, once these boys are of age, once they're around 14 or 15 years old, they can be kind of worked into this system where they'll go out on these supply runs and collect stuff for the colony via this causeway during low tide. And Alfie is Spike, and he's the young kid, and Aaron Taylor Johnson is like, yeah, no, he's ready, we can go. and collect for the for the colony. And I think that was cool too, to explore like the evolution of the infected, but also the evolution of humans and like them living on this quarantine land was almost like backstepping into like early colonialism, where they have like, all right, you're a seamstress, like, and you see this in the trailer of like all the jobs within their community and how they operate, and it's very like bare bones, and they don't have phones, they barely have radios, like it's stuff like that. So I thought it was cool that the infected have evolved, but we kind of digress, but we're still like, we're functioning, basically.
Yeah, and they go back to using like bow and arrows. Like, they don't have enough bullets, obviously, 28 years later, so they just have these primal weapons. And that leads to some great scenes where they start out and they're kind of hunting like the ones that are crawling on the ground, and then they walk out into a field, and then you just see like 16 zombies just like come up on the crest of the hill.
On the horizon. Just
a great shot, and they're just like standing there, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's like, oh, we need to run
like,
in the woods.
like in like the most dad way, he's like, we should probably get going. Like, you can tell this dude's like, oh, we're fucked right
like
now.
3 arrows left. Yeah, we gotta run.
He's like, resources are tapped. Spike? Let's
back this way. And there's a great like chase through the woods, and then they find this house that they're going through, and it's just like they're coming up the stairs and they're trying to get up to the attic. Just a lot of great like escalating tension there. And then also as they're going back to their colony, the alpha, or one of the alphas, he is chasing them on the land bridge or the causeway, and it is so intense. Like, the water's up to their shins on there because it's kind of low tide, but like kind of in between. So that adds an element to it. And then they're like screaming to the people at their like the gate. They're like, dude, big fuck is coming.
Let us in.
Yeah. And they're like,
we need help.
They're like, I don't know, dude. So that was a really, really great scene. I loved all of that stuff. And then the rest of the movie, Jodie Comer becomes a bigger part of it with the kid, and we see them going back to the mainland, and it's where we meet Ralph Fiennes. And I thought the rest of the movie was really solid too. There's a great scene with some military dudes in a tunnel. You see a bit of it in the trailer. And the Alpha just has a Predator moment, just spine and skull just ripped out. It was like, oh,
some of the violence in this movie, and like this movie is more like emotionally resonant and poignant than I was anticipating, especially like once they get back to the, like, via that causeway, once Aaron Taylor Johnson and Alfie Williams get back home and are in their community. That was all I knew about the story. Like, I was like, all right, well, then what happens next? We're already back. Like, I didn't think that we would get here so early. Like, what's the next portion of the story? And then it gets really, like, I think it's, like, emotionally touching, and it worked for me really well, but it was really surprising to have that aspect, but they also do still continuously develop and deliver on the violence of the rage virus, I think. And you spoke on this, too, about, like, how they've evolved differently, and some are fit to hunt in packs, and some are just gonna hobble around the ground and eat grubs and squeal really weird, which I really appreciated the difference in. I think Alex Garland talked about that too. He's like, some of these rage virus victims, they're not going to be fit to like hunt in packs. They're not going to be strong enough, so they'll just like eat the dirt. Like, especially if there's no one on the mainland for them to like feed off of. Basically, all they have is worms and shit like that. So I thought that was really interesting, but. This movie, more so than the others, I think had a more emotionally resonant story that I was not expecting. And it surprised me, and also I think we talked about it briefly before we started recording about, you mentioned how the pacing of this, or kind of like the structure of this film, kind of reminded you of like Ghost Protocol. And I feel like that's like a pretty common reference that we use a lot in terms of just like when the story peaks and then never kind of fulfills or comes back up to that kind of excitement level later on in like the third act necessarily. And I actually think I much prefer what happens in the latter half of the film than in that first chunk that we get really with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Alfie Williams. So I think that's like, I think you and I both like it relatively the same amount, but I think you and I like different portions of it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I definitely prefer that first half. I just love like a dad and son on a hunting trip to the mainland, and that's, like you were saying, was in the trailers and was kind of...
That's what you expected the story to be. So them getting back, I was like, now what?
Yeah,
like, what is the story here?
That's just kind of one of the issues I have, is like it feels like a very, like two different stories that they had, and they're kind of combining them. Where I think they could have like meshed it a little bit better, where Aaron Taylor Johnson's really not in the back half of this movie at all.
No, he's not. He's pretty forgotten about all
this. Yeah, and I wish we could have had like the mom, dad, and son all out on the mainland together instead
Yeah.
of doing 2 separate trips. It just feels weird to like break it up a little bit.
And I feel like they almost. I'm trying not to spoil too much of the movie, but I feel like they almost established that, because there is that eventual moment when Alfie goes back to the mainland, and then Aaron Taylor Johnson, which I don't remember his name, but he realizes, like, oh shit, he's gone. And like you have a big scene where he's rushing to the water and he's like, my son's out there, like, but we don't see him again. So I think if he were to like show up in that second half, chasing, trying, even in pursuit, trying to find them, I'm like, that could have definitely helped to kind of connect the beginning and the second half of this movie and to make it feel more consistent and cohesive, as opposed to like a tale of two parts where it's like, all right, this chunk of the story and then now distinctively this chunk.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like if you developed him a little bit further, you probably could have had him carry on into that second half.
Yeah, I think it would have helped make it feel a bit more cohesive.
Yeah.
A couple other little issues I had. There were some music choices throughout the movie that just didn't feel like they fit tonally. Felt like it was, I don't know, almost too upbeat and kind of like, I kind of want this to be like a darker, just like sitting with like 28 Days Later. So that didn't always work for me. And then a big thing with this movie is like a lot of the editing choices. Danny Boyle has always done interesting edits, and with this movie especially, they filmed all of it on iPhones, and they had like different lenses, obviously. But
you've seen like the behind the scenes of like that
ring
they had. I'm
yeah.
like, that's pretty sick.
And I think some of it looks really cool, and then other times the editing, we were talking about it before, is like it feels inconsistent, because in the early action scenes, there's like, they do like the bullet time, it's kind of called, where like they'll shoot an arrow and it'll like shoot and then it'll pause and then go over,
whip around and show a different angle.
Yeah, and then like continue that, which I don't hate that, but then they abandon that later in the movie and it just becomes like regular shot, regular editing kind of. So it just felt a little bit jarring to have 2 very different editing styles within the same movie, and it goes back to like that first half and second half feeling very different. But I think overall it still worked fine. It's just like a little issue I had. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is the ending of the movie just feels so strange.
A lot of people that I've seen do not like it, and I, as a fan of the movie overall, really liking the movie. I'm excited for what this will bring, but I don't know if I like it necessarily as the ending to this movie.
It feels tonally inconsistent.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main issue I have, is just that tone not feeling cohesive throughout.
And so to go back to the bullet time or that effect, I remember you mentioned that you didn't like before we really were able to sit down and talk about it, that you didn't like that. And I was like, oh, I immediately thought like, oh, he just didn't like the fact that they did it. And I was like, well, that's fine. And then once we talked about it, and you're like, well, no, it was not the fact that they did it. You liked that they did it, but it was that they didn't continue it through. And I was like, oh, that's true. They definitely didn't keep it consistent. And I'd have to agree with that. Like I really like that stylistic choice, and it harkens back, and I feel like it's really in line with the earlier 2 films in this franchise. But then to not continue it on feels a bit odd. So I completely agree with that point. This movie almost feels like it's, even though it is like a third movie, it doesn't feel like an end to a trilogy of the first 2. It feels like that first act where we have that like boy learning what this world is and going to the mainland and experiencing the world and going on this hunting trip with his dad. That feels like the tail end of the first 2 movies. And then once you get Alfie, Spike, the character, going back to the mainland with his mother, that's the beginning of this new trilogy. It feels like that's kind of the teetering point, the dividing point between the first portion of the story of the 28 franchise, basically, and then the second half. Because once you get there, once you get Alfie or Spike and his mother back on the mainland and you meet more characters, that's where I'm like, I feel like this is what this new trilogy that they've been proposing is going to be about. And you get Ralph Fiennes, who I think is awesome. I loved his character. I thought he was just going to be kind of like a stereotypical lunatic, like gone crazy on this island with infected people. And I thought he was really surprising in the fact that he was pretty normal. Like, he's doing wild, weird things with his little sanctuary, let's call it, that he's living within. And his practices are a bit weird, but like the meaning behind it fits and worked for me. of like remembering death and remembering life and what it means to die. And he's like, I don't want infected or normal people alike, I don't want them to forget that what life is. Even if, like, when you die, and that's the end of something. And that's important, regardless of whether you were living your life breathing air or you're chasing after someone trying to get their blood. Like, it doesn't matter. So I was really intrigued by that, and like, you always see, like, in the trailers, they show him, like, washed in red, and I'm like, this is going to be a bit much. But I love Ralph Fiennes in this movie. I feel like Jodie Comer, her character in the first half kind of annoyed me, because I'm like, they're not giving me enough to really, like, connect with this character, but she's sick, she's ill. And then the second half, I really grew to love her, and I think that they do a lot emotionally that worked well for me, especially with Spike. And I posted a review to this movie earlier this morning, saying that this feels like almost a zombie Ivan's childhood, or at least that second half does, where you're getting this boy exposed to just, like, not only the atrocities of not necessarily war that would kind of fit the Ivan's childhood comparison, but the atrocities of this zombie infested land and his life. And not only that, he's facing, like, issues with his father not being who he necessarily built him up to be in his head. And he's seeing, like, oh, my father is a person and not necessarily, like, this hero. And seeing kind of how that changes within him. And also facing, like, all right, well, what does my mom have? What's going on here? How long is she going to be around? What do I have to, like, fight for anymore? And I thought that was immediately what I thought in the movies. I'm like, oh, this kind of makes me think of Ivan's Childhood, which is one of my favorites. So I'm like, immediately like, all right, I think you guys kind of won me over. But I liked the latter half, and then you get to that ending, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, I think you nailed it on the head with Alfie kind of going on that journey throughout the movie, and it is a very relatable thing of, like, as a kid when you're growing up, your parents are superheroes, and they can't do anything wrong. Why would they, you know?
Yeah.
And then as you grow up and you learn more about them and you see the things they're doing, sometimes you're like, oh,
you're just a person and you have flaws. And, like, the flaws are what stands out, because it's like, otherwise you're just a superhero. Like, you're amazing at everything you do.
Right. You're like, oh, this, you know, sometimes you can, like, get angry or, like, be upset about it, but you're also like, this is your first time living too. So, like, this is a good journey for Alfie, and I'm excited to see where they go with the character, even though I didn't love the ending of the movie. But, yeah, I think one of my favorite things about this current trilogy that we have is that they aren't really concerned with connecting each movie.
That too, yeah.
Even though, like, we did have some issues with not tying up, like, the Paris loose end, they're each just telling a story within this, kind of like Mad Max almost, where it's like this wasteland and you're just separate stories with, like, one character kind of going through. But with these movies, it's just different people, different groups at different time periods throughout, which I like seeing, and I definitely really like this movie. I think it's really solid. I think over time I'm going to like it more. I think just knowing what to expect now, some of those issues I had will go away. So I'm excited for The Bone Temple, which comes out in January, which pretty quick turnaround. I know it's already, I think, filmed and shot.
Yeah.
So
Neil Costa directed.
Yeah, so we'll see. It feels like, you know, even though I just said they don't feel all connected, I think these next couple will be more in its own little thing. So, definitely a recommendation for both of us. Really like the movie, and worth seeing in theaters. Absolutely.
Yeah, so far it is, we talked about it before also recording, it is currently in my top 10 of the year. I really would recommend it. I have seen a lot of people, like, not love it and say that it's not super in line with the first two in the franchise, which I don't, like, 100% disagree with. I think the trailers do a really good job of showing you the first half of the movie, and then you kind of learn more about what that main story is in that second half, and it's like, oh, well, this was kind of unexpected, but you still get a lot of what you're promised in the trailer of violence and zombies and infected and how do we survive, but also, and you mentioned this earlier before we recorded too, boots. It was in the fucking movie, which I love because they used it so much in the marketing. It was so effective in the marketing, but then they also used it in the movie, which part of me is like, it's more effective in the trailers than it was really in the movie for me. Yep. But I love that they still included it. So
yeah, I think the trailers are a work of art in themselves, and I think the movie never quite lives up to the expectations I had from the trailers, but it's still a very good movie and super solid. So really like that one. A movie that I checked out and I'm excited to talk about is The Life of Chuck, which
I'm so Interesting.
You saw this movie last week and you loved it. It's your number one of the year.
Number one of the year. One of my favorites of the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I had always planned on seeing it, and then after hearing your review, I was just like, all right, I can't wait to see it. And I went and saw it in theaters, and I did not care for this movie. I was very excited, and this won the People's Choice Award at the Toronto Film Festival last year in September. And the last 9 movies to have won that award have gone on to be nominated for Best Picture, and a couple of them have won. I think Green Book and Nomadland. So 9 of the last 10 have done it.
I did not know that.
I don't think Life of Chuck will get nominated for any Oscars. I don't think that this movie is going to hang around. I
disagree with how you feel about the movie, but I honestly don't disagree with that sentiment. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get a lot of nominations.
It doesn't feel, even now, like a week out, it doesn't feel like it has a lot of momentum.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's had a big impact. Like I've seen reviewers that we both like that have reviewed it and reviewed it positively, but aside from that, I haven't heard a lot of chatter about this, and it's hard for me to imagine this having staying power in a world where Dune Part 2 barely had any.
Right.
So I'm like,
coming out in the summer is always going to be tough to hang around. So we'll see if that trend continues. Maybe it will get nominated, and I'll, have to eat crow, and we'll flash back to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get a lot of awards talk.
So, you kind of touched last week on the story of this movie. It's basically about Charles Krantz, played by a few different actors. Tom Hiddleston is kind of the main one.
Most marketable one.
Yep, and then you have Jacob Tremblay and Benjamin Pajak, I think is how you say it there. Mm-hmm. So it's basically a story of this guy's life in 3 different chapters, and it's told Act 3, Act 2, Act 1, so in reverse order. And it's based on the Stephen King novella. And I think the main thing that didn't work for me in this movie is it felt like it was trying so hard to have an emotional impact that it forgot to actually do it. I think the dialogue in this movie was very wooden and stilted, and there's parts where Nick Offerman is the narrator, a great narrator, great voice.
Fantastic.
But he's just I haven't read the novella, but reading lines that I can assume are directly from it. And
it feels like it, yeah.
He's like, Charles Krantz walked down the street in his blue shirt and tie, and he's dancing, but he didn't know why he was dancing. It's just like, it didn't connect with me, and there's a lot of discussions, especially in the first act, or the third act, but the first one you see in the movie.
It's hard to fucking talk about it.
Right, the first third of this movie.
Yeah.
Where Chiwetel Ejiofor and Karen Gillan have this 10-minute phone conversation about the start of the universe and what day we're on and the philosophical impact and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't care about this. I'm not invested. I just feel like the movie kept me at an arm's length as far as diving into the characters. And I think that continues in the last 2 acts of the movie, where I wasn't invested in Charles Krantz, and there's this whole mystery in the first third of the movie where it's like, who is Charles Krantz? Why do so many people care about him? And I thought that set up something interesting, and then you learn about him, and he's just pretty normal guy. Yeah. I'm like, oh, so what was the intrigue of that first third when it's just he's kind of a normal guy? And it felt like the message of this movie was that your past self influences who you are in the future, which I could have fucking told you that and saved you an hour and 50. Oh, wow, what you did before influences what you do now? Yeah, I could have said that and saved you an hour and 50 minutes. It just, I don't know. It felt like it was a Disney Channel messaging type of movie where it's just life is beautiful and you need to appreciate it. And I'm like, yeah, but why? What are you showing me that makes me feel that? I just didn't feel anything in this movie. Like I said, I don't hate this movie. I think it is well directed by Mike Flanagan. Yeah. The performances are all good, even though I didn't love all the dialogue. I think everybody did a good job of, what they were given in this movie. But I just really couldn't connect with this one, and I'm very disappointed. I was expecting to at least like it.
I feel bad glazing this movie so hard for you to. He texted me when I was up in Duluth, and he's like, because we're talking about 28 years later, because I feel like that was just whoa, this movie's wild. And I was like, oh, did you also see Life of Chuck? What'd you think? And he was like, I did not like it. And I was like, oh! Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm glad you liked it though. Like, I'm glad people are loving this movie and that it worked for you and other people for sure. It just for me, it didn't connect with me.
That third act, which is at the beginning of the movie, so the first third. I love that. When you watched it, did you perceive that, or now knowing how the movie goes, do you perceive that third act, the beginning part, as being like literally what happened, or do you perceive that as what's in Chuck Krantz's head?
That's interesting. I hadn't really considered. I had just taken it as what happened.
So the way I view it, because it kind of ties back, the whole way I understand this movie is through the Walt Whitman poem, which is the Song of Myself. Which when I started living on my own and had my own apartment and was paying for everything, and I was really cutting corners on paying for stuff, I would go to the half price books and I'd buy a bunch of books, and I love Walt Whitman. And I read Song of Myself, and there's that line that's also included within the trailer, within the second act, the middle portion of this movie, where it's I forget Mike Flanagan's wife's name. But she plays the teacher in one of Charles's classes growing up, and she says, "I contain multitudes," basically saying the way and to help kind of show how I interpret that first portion of the movie is that this is all within Chuck Krantz's head. That world, Act 3, is all within the head, the mind space of Chuck Krantz, because it's to say, everyone you ever see in your life, it's a snapshot of a person that you may never see again, but they have an end point in your head. You'll envision their entire through line, their entire story, and when you die, they die with you. Even if they're living their completely different existence somewhere else, your experience with them and them being a part of your life, they die with you. So Act 3, the beginning part of this movie, that's inside Charles Krantz's head as he's dying. Basically, it's his world shutting down. All the stars are blipping out. And the movie does keep you at arm's length, especially that first beginning portion, that Act 3, where you're what's going on? The world's ending? And but also everyone's lights are turning on, and you see Chuck Krantz, and they're all everyone knows who this guy is, but they don't know. And they do a good job, I think, throughout the remaining portions of the movie of showing you these actors in Act 3 popping up in his life, like a teacher or a nurse at a hospital near him. And they've been a character in his life, even though he doesn't know them. He's envisioned them, and they're in his head. But as he's dying, what's dying of those people are just what he remembers of them, and they'll live on. So I thought that worked really well. Act 2 might be my favorite part of the movie, and you get that dance, one of my favorite dance sequences in any movie ever. Maybe just because it's so sweet, and it's him tying back, and it is kind of in tune with that, your previous decisions in life will affect how you grow up or affect what you do now. And the narration by Nick Offerman of he works for a bank and he does all these financial things, and he's kind of just a humdrum normal dude. But then he sees this woman playing drums, and he just thinks back to his grandma, and he's just no, I should just keep walking, but that's not what life's about. I should dance to this. That's what I should be doing. And I just thought that worked really well. I thought it was really sweet. I love this movie. I'm interested that you didn't like it, and I'm interested to talk to you more about it, just kind of throughout the rest of this year, because if it does eventually pop up in awards ceremony, or awards season, I'd still be surprised, just because I don't know how much the staying power of this movie is in terms of best director and stuff like that. But I love this movie, and I kind of wish we saw this together to walk out at the same time and see how that conversation went.
Yeah,
because I feel when you and I, if we can't tell when we're in the theater together if we both like it at the same time, we'll walk out and we're pretty slow to show our hand of
what'd you think?
Yeah. Did you like it?
Right. This is definitely one I'd be interested to rewatch down the road.
Yeah.
To see if my thoughts change on it. But like I said, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad it worked for a lot of other people too.
I love Carl Lumbly in this.
Yeah,
such a small role.
Yeah, the cast is all great. Like, they all do a really good job. So there's definitely little elements that I liked of it, but overall just didn't quite work for me on the emotional level, or just kind of in its story overall. I wasn't super invested. But glad that I saw it. Glad we could talk about it. And that's the beauty of movies. We can both watch the same thing and have completely different views and thoughts on it.
Did you like Life of Chuck before, more than the one that we're about to talk about next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a better made. Like I said, the movie is made well. Like, there's not. Yeah. It's a tough movie to like hate.
Yeah.
It's just one where I'm like, I didn't connect with it, but I'm not like, wow, that movie was dog shit. Like, it's not anywhere near there, so I don't want that to, come across that way.
Which, like, the movie we're about to talk about is not dog shit. It was the movie that I think I might have tricked Corey into seeing with me on accident, because I was really, like, gung-ho, like, oh, maybe AMC Screen Unseen this past week. Maybe they'll show 28 years later, and we'll be able to see it on a Monday night as opposed to, like, Thursday previews. No, they didn't show 28 years later on a fucking Monday night. That was stupid of me to be hopeful about, apparently. We saw 40 Acres, which I saw a trailer for when I saw Life of Chuck, is when I saw the trailer for 40 Acres. But 40 Acres, directed by R.T. Thorne, who I don't think has done anything on a feature level. I think it's been like television series up to this point. But directing Danil Deadweiler, Katam O'Connor, and Michael Grayes. I remember seeing the trailer for this and being just so like, the trailer tries to make this look like a very shoot 'em up action movie, and it's kind of in a similar way to 28 Years Later. It's a survival movie after, like, it's a post-apocalyptic world where food is scarce, and it's just basically down to who has farmland and who is able to successfully get food from the land, and those people kind of are well off. And there's people just kind of roaming around, and there's a lot of like commentary being said with, and like the title of 40 Acres. Taking that away from it, wow, was this movie so uneventful? Not bad, not like poorly made, but uneventful, formulaic, and fucking slow. This movie, I forget what the official runtime was. It was around maybe 2 hours. Felt like 2.5 to 2:40. It was crawling by. Corey, I know you were a big fan of 40 Acres. What did you think of this movie?
Yeah, like you said,
I felt so bad too.
the AMC Screen Unseen, like you said, we were like 28 years later, and it was another movie that started with a number, but
40
Acres, close enough. But no, like you said, this isn't a bad movie by any means. It is just very bland.
That was like dominoes.
Nice, fuck nuts.
I hope the camera got that. That was sweet. That's the best thing I've done all day. That's more impressive than the marathon.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But yeah, this movie's not bad by any means. It really is just very slow. Like you said, it has a lot of interesting like setup and ideas. Mm-hmm. I never feel like it utilizes the post-apocalyptic thing
enough
really that well. Like, this could have just been like a family on a farm and some intruders come.
Yeah.
And you could be set during any time. And they really never dig into it all that much of like the post-apocalyptic stuff, which I don't always need them to. But even something like A Quiet Place, that first movie, where like they don't reference it a lot, but you just see like newspaper clippings. You get like an idea and you have that, and like a similar thing of like talking on the radio to other people and like trying to hear other survivors.
And it felt like at times that was my closest comparison to this movie while watching 40 Acres was A Quiet Place. It felt like very like based around this farm, like intruders and how they're surviving, but as opposed to being quiet, they're just more like, all right, check the perimeter, make sure no one's coming in, like be in contact with other farming communities or successful families in terms of like farmland around us, to make sure everyone's okay and that no one's being like overthrown by intruders and stuff like that. And they're also, the intruders are cannibals. They do a hell of a lot of work in this movie to make you not see them eat anyone. There's a couple of like really effective shots, but you never really get to feel like the real like danger or dread of these people intruding us. Like, oh, we're fucked. They're gonna eat us. No, I never really felt that like fear that would come with cannibals being in a movie. It was more of like, oh wow, they stockpiled a bunch of body parts in a bunch of containers on a wall. Wow, that's so scary. Like, that was it.
It's just they do a couple things, and then the last like action scene in the movie is just like a home invasion thing, where it's just people like the families in the bunker, and it's people trying to get in. So they don't even utilize like the cannibal stuff there. It's just like, oh, they're a danger to us. But we like that setup just kind of didn't go anywhere. This movie also is a little tonally inconsistent. There's some humor that they have in the movie that actually is pretty funny.
Yeah, there's like 4 jokes in the movie.
Yeah, which like they worked for me, but it just felt odd in this one. And yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like it lived up to any of the promise of the premises that it brought up in this movie. Danielle Deadwyler is very good. She's a great actress, very underrated.
All the performances are actually really solid throughout too.
Yeah, and she's great as the matriarch. And I really like the dad too, Michael Grey Eyes in the movie. I thought he was great, and it's a fine watch. It's kind of a cool like little novelty to see it. It comes out in a couple weeks to the public, so it was kind of a fun thing to see, and always seeing a movie with you was a good time.
Yeah.
But just going in like, well, you kind of had looked before to see that it wasn't 28 years later.
Yeah, so thankfully when AMC's Screen on Screen, us being in the Midwest, there are people on the East Coast that will get the screening before us, so they're an hour ahead of us. They can post about what movie it is. So they were, not only that, I was getting like what specific trailers we were going to see before the movie, in what order, and then they're like, oh, it's 40 Acres, because the big thing was like, are we going to go in there thinking it's 28 years later and get bride hard and get fucked? Like, oh my god. Which, also, that's directed by Simon West, so maybe it would have been like a shitty, bad, fun time, but I don't know. But then I heard that it was 40 Acres, and I texted Corey. I was like, well, okay, it's 40 Acres. It's not going to be 28 years later. Do you still want to go? And you're like, yeah, we're checking it out. It's worth the novelty of it. And, like, still, it's not a bad movie. I think it was still worth the time that we spent in the theater. It's just, there are things that I feel like could have been easy fixes, or things that could have easily enhanced this movie. I know that they were relatively a low budget. I think it was like reported like 8 to 10 maybe, or 8 million was what they immediately budgeted for, and it might have gone over a little bit, but around $8 million. I feel like what they were going for far surpassed what they had budgeted for themselves, so that they couldn't necessarily do something. I feel like they needed to strip back the story, and I feel like easily just make it about the one family. Don't try and venture out. And if you're going to have cannibals, maybe try to have cannibals.
I think this could have been like an hour and a half, a family on a farm, cannibals trying to get there.
Yeah.
And make it just simpler, you know?
Yeah, and I think you could probably still get a lot of that same kind of commentary that you're trying to have with a movie called 40 Acres. You could probably still fit that in, even with refining the story and making it a little bit more simple and straightforward even. But not a bad time at the theaters. When it does come out, I don't even honestly know the official release date. It might be early July.
I think, early July.
Yeah, whenever it does come out, it's not a bad time. So if you're kind of wanting kind of a survival story, maybe go check it out.
Yeah,
it might be worth it for you.
I'd be curious to see R.T. Thorne do more work too. I think he did a fine job directing it. So I'd be definitely down to see him do some more stuff. A movie that I caught up on from earlier this year that you had already seen was The Ballad of Wallace Island, a very small movie. Mm-hmm. It had a pretty limited release. And it is directed by James Griffiths, who made the original short film.
I did not even know about that.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that short film, but I know it was pretty widely acclaimed when it came out. And the movie stars Tom Basden, Tim Key, Carey Mulligan, and basically Tim Key is this guy who won the lottery not once, but twice, which is hilarious.
The way they cover it, too, in the movie, of just like, so they have like the lottery tickets framed, and it was like, so we traveled the world and did all the things, but then the funds started running dry, and then we won the lottery again. And it's just like, so like, oh, okay, we got money, and it happened, and it worked perfectly. Move on. Yeah, and it works well in the movie.
It's so funny. But he's living on this remote island, and he is a big fan of this music group that Tom Basden and Carey Mulligan were a part of, who since broke up, and they also were in a relationship too and got divorced. So. He wants to bring them together and perform a concert for kind of a memory of Tim Key's wife that he lost, and just because they both really love their music, and he wanted to bring them out there to perform a song. And it's just such a delightful movie. Like, this is so sweet and charming. Tim Key just has such a likable nature to him, where he just has these dumb little jokes that he does, and just people are like yelling and screaming at him. He's like, oh, okay, whatever. Okay. He just doesn't care. He's just like moving on, and
he's almost like Paddington in the Paddington movies to me. Like, he's very charming, he's very easygoing, he's very quirky, but he doesn't like ever have like a really heavy down moment, and he's never very mad. He's just like, oh, okay, and he moves on.
One of the funniest parts is him and Tom Basden are playing tennis at one point, and Tim Key is serving, and he's just like crushing it.
Yeah,
and then
smoking his ass.
Tom Bazin starts serving, but Tim Key can't return. He's like, I've never played against anybody else. I only know how to serve. Like, I can't. Nobody hits the ball back to me. Like, I can't. I don't know how to do this other part. I just know to serve. So just little, like, just things that are so sweet about his character. And there are so many great scenes of the music being performed, which is actually really good.
Yeah,
in the movie.
I like the music in the movie.
Tom Bazin and Carey Mulligan are singing their songs and kind of reconnecting a bit. And there's a part at a dinner table where they're singing this kind of romance song, and Tim Key is just watching them and just tearing up and crying, just like thinking about his wife, obviously. And that's honestly, I think, my favorite scene in the movie is just the small little moment. And then you get kind of a sort of concert type scene at the end of the movie, which is also very emotionally impactful.
That was the one that fucked me up.
Yeah, it's just so sweet, and it's just a delightful movie. Like I said, there's really like no flaws that I have with it. It's really well paced, it's well directed, and I think the performances are all great. Getting Carey Mulligan in there kind of helps elevate it a little bit too. So very, very solid. It's on Peacock right now. That's where I watched it. So I would highly recommend it because I think this movie kind of is getting forgotten a little bit because it is smaller, but it's still really, really good.
Yeah, it's easily we mentioned this about 28 years later, but this one is more firmly, I'd say, in my top 10 than 28 years later, just because as I've gotten older, and especially since I've been married, violence in movies kind of hits me different, but movies about loved ones or like relationships really hit me hard typically, except for Materialist, because that movie kind of hit me like nothing. But in this movie, like that scene where he's performing and it's all about his past wife, and it's just devastating. Like, I'm freshly married, but to exist in a world without my wife, I'm like, oh my god, that's devastating. And like doing all this to commemorate the time that you had together is heartwarming, but also devastating at the same time. So it's really bittersweet, and it's a great movie. If you haven't checked it out, it's a very easy movie to get into, and I think really anyone could really enjoy it. There are also a number of movies that I caught up from this week as I was stressing about the marathon and getting prepared for it. With Elio coming out this past week, Corey and I both didn't see it. I might try and catch it in theaters. I might even try and catch it in theaters today. But there are a number of other Pixar movies that have come out in the past couple of years that I've missed out on, so I did a little bit of a a run-through of some of the more recent stuff. I watched Elemental, which was like pretty, I think for the most part, well acclaimed. It didn't do well financially in its opening weekend, but it did end up running like a pretty good, decent track record throughout the box office, throughout its duration in theaters. But Elemental I really enjoyed, and it's directed by Peter Sohn, who we talked about last week is going to be taking on Incredibles 3. It's an awesome rom-com within the Pixar universe, and it's a good immigration story. The hardest thing and the hardest sell for me on this movie was the animation style. I didn't think that, like, I remember seeing the trailers and not being like I'd be able to get into it. I thought the animation was really interesting, but within the movie it worked for me. And it's a great little rom-com within the Pixar universe that I thought was really endearing and sweet. My wife really loved it. I also watched Luca actually early this morning. It was one that came out during COVID, and I just never caught it. And I enjoyed this movie. It wasn't my favorite. It's probably more lower tier Pixar, but like low tier Pixar is still pretty good, except for like probably Cars 2. So Luca was a good enough time. I'm really happy that I watched it. It was. I now know when people say like Silencio Bruno, like I finally get that fucking reference. And the animation actually in Luca, I really dug. I thought it looked great.
These are two really good Pixar movies.
Yeah.
Kind of slept on a little bit. Like, not top tier for me, but
I feel like
really good.
Since COVID, I feel like the biggest Pixar movie, aside from maybe Inside Out 2, is Soul. I feel like Soul came out and people loved Soul. And Luca, Elemental have kind of like fallen to the wayside a little bit. Same with Lightyear. But people loved Soul, and people have now loved again Inside Out 2, and now we're getting Elio, and I'm like, I don't know how well received it's going to be. But I don't even love Soul that much. I think I like Elemental more than Soul. I was really pleasantly surprised by that movie, but...
So have you seen, besides Elio, have you seen all the Pixar movies now?
Not Cars 3. That is I think the only Pixar movie I haven't seen is Cars 3 at this point.
Okay.
I like Cars 1 as much as I think the average adult likes the first Cars movie. Even though I grew up with that movie and I had like the wind-up McDonald's toys that you got, those were fucking awesome.
I had a like a storage thing that like kept all the cars in, and it was also a racetrack that you could like see through on there, so you'd like pull them out and you could race them. I was like, this is peak living.
Oh yeah, I like the first Cars movie when it hit when I was a kid. Awesome movie. As you've grown up, it's like, okay, it's still like decent Pixar. Cars 2 I did not like, and I just haven't seen Cars 3, but I've heard that that's more of like in line with the first Cars.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Obviously the Cars 2. In preparation for my marathon, I needed something that was likely either sporty or motivational, and I usually go to either like Rocky Balboa, maybe Creed, or The Fighter. Also Miracle, which is the one I ended up watching just because I love the Herb Brooks speech, or the Kurt Russell speech as Herb Brooks, of hyping up the USA hockey team in the 1980s before going out to defeat the USSR and the Soviet team. And I'm tired of hearing about what a great team the Soviets have. Tonight, it's our time. And I love that movie. It was always on my TV growing up within my like family household, just because we all were a big hockey family and we loved the Miracle movie. So watch that this week. And then also forgot about a movie I watched last week that I didn't tell you guys about. I watched the movie Creep from 2014. This week I watched Creep 2 from 2017. They're both directed by Patrick Brice, both starring Mark Duplass. They're little small independent horror films about this weird, interesting, idiosyncratic dude living in the woods who's also a serial killer. And I really enjoyed both of these movies. I found them both, I think, on maybe Amazon Prime? I don't honestly remember, but if you are able to track them down, they, I think, are free and available on streaming. They're worth a watch. They're fun if you like horror films. Creep 2 I actually really loved. The first Creep was good, but the sequel to it I loved, and it was an interesting kind of dissection of like, I'm a serial killer. I want you to interview me about my serial killings before I kill myself. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? So I really liked Creep 2 and the first Creep. If you haven't watched them or if they've been on your radar, check them out. I think they're worth your time.
Yeah, I have not seen either of the Creep movies, but I'm definitely interested. I love Mark Duplass.
The League. Did you ever watch The League?
Yeah, I've seen parts of that. It's so funny.
That show is awesome. Yeah. I love that show. And to see him, who is, it's a comedy show about these guys playing fantasy football. This guy, who is one of the main characters in that, I think his name's Pete in the show, now going to more of like horror stuff and horror direction and filmmaking and stuff like that. And he's great in the Creep movies, and I love him. And he has a very interesting career.
Yeah,
so
he's also really good in The Morning Show.
I never watched that.
Yeah, I saw the first season or first 2 seasons. It's pretty good. I need to finish that, but I like him in there. And echoing all your thoughts on Miracle, that's one of the best sports movies of all time. Yeah. We need some more sports movies like that. Just like the classic formula, but just like getting you pumped up.
It works great, yeah.
Kind of a sports-esque movie coming out this week. For June 27th is F1, directed by Joseph Kosinski, who did Top Gun Maverick. Also did Tron Legacy, which is, I actually like that movie. Mm-hmm. And Oblivion, which is great. Only the Brave, really good. I know you haven't seen that.
Yeah, I didn't even include that in here. I completely forget about it.
Really, really solid movie. But he's coming back to do a Formula One movie starring Brad Pitt. You got Javier Bardem, Kerry Condon, Damson Idris, who I don't think I've seen him in anything, but just from the trailers, he looks really cool. I'm excited to see him in this. And Shea Wiggum, who is just
in everything.
In everything. He's always popping up as a supporting character. Will he ever get a lead role? I don't know.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
But yeah, I mean, this is Brad Pitt as a Formula One driver who comes out of retirement to mentor and team up with a younger driver. And I am so pumped for this movie. This is like a classic dad movie.
Oh, yeah.
This is like
Days of Thunder. This is
the Ford v Ferrari type thing. And like Top Gun Maverick was even like a dad movie too. Yeah. So I'm stoked for this one. I know we plan to bring our moms to it. I think next Sunday.
Yeah.
Going to try and get a lunch and go see this one. I think they're both going to love it. It just seems like a movie that, like, yeah, Brad Pitt, check.
Yeah.
Racing, cool, good summer blockbuster. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this one.
I'm really stoked. I love Top Gun Maverick. I've actually been, like, on the positive side of almost every Joseph Kosinski movie I've seen. Oblivion is one of the most underrated sci-fi movies of recent memory. Yeah. I love that fucking movie. And Top Gun Maverick was a trip. Tron Legacy, even if the story's not all that great, the music and most of the effects aside from Jeff Bridges are phenomenal. So I'm so eagerly anticipating this. We're gonna have a good end of June, early July in terms of movies.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a good summer. We also got Mithrigan 2.0. That is the first time I think I've ever said Mithrigan out loud. You always say it like that. I always say Megan, but Mithrigan 2.0, directed by Gerard Johnstone, who directed the first Mithrigan, and also a movie called Housebound, which I'm sure is another horror film. I think it was from like 2014. This film starring the same cast mostly. We got Allison Williams, Jermaine Clement, Violet McGraw, Jenna Davis, and Amy Donald. It's basically Terminator 2 of this franchise, it looks like, at least based on the trailers, and you get the little Megan robot saying pussy and bitches a lot, so sounds like another romp in the Mithrigan franchise. I wonder if we'll get a third. I'm not the first one was fine, and it was like fun for what it was. It was kind of like a meme, I feel like, more so than anything. Getting the second one and having this doll in the trailers call me a bitch, I'm like, all right, bitches. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'm not the most excited for this, but I know we're likely gonna try and. I feel like we'll probably get a group together and go see this also.
Yeah, we had a group together for the first movie, and yeah, I think I like the first movie maybe a little bit more than you do, but I'm in the same boat. Where like it's fine. There's some fun stuff to it. This one, I think, like going in knowing that this is just dumb and like just upping everything to the nth degree is gonna help to just maybe enjoy this a bit more, get a drink, and just be
this
whatever.
is a socially lubricated viewing experience. This is where you go in a little tipsy, a couple drinks deep, kind of like a Black Adam, like a Kraven the Hunter, which like I'm thinking this movie's probably quality wise, hopefully a little bit better than those two movies, but just kind of like a turn your brain off, have a good time. I'll probably end up seeing. We'll both probably end up seeing it in theaters. Yeah. It's not one I'm like the most excited about, but I know I'll likely see it in theaters.
It could be a sleeper top 10 movie for the summer box office.
That's very true.
I think I didn't put it in my personal list. I don't think you did.
I don't think I did either. I haven't looked at those numbers, and I'm really scared to because like with Lilo and Stitch and now How to Train Your Dragon coming out, because I chose Lilo and Stitch I think as number one. And you had How to Train Your Dragon.
I think Lilo and Stitch is looking like it's going to be a number one right now, unless like Superman or Fantastic Four does crazy work.
I looked at How to Train Your Dragon tickets for today because I still haven't seen it. I think me and my wife might go see it tomorrow night. But I looked at tickets for today, Monday. Every fucking showtime at the theater I looked at sold out. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah,
people want to see this.
That's great to see.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, but I was also like, I was not expecting that.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see box office wise how Megan and hopefully F1 does well too. I think I had that on my list, so we will see that. And then on the TV side of things, we've got Ironheart coming out, the highly anticipated Marvel television show. That
I googled it, it said it was highly anticipated, which no one is highly anticipating. Marvel is not highly anticipating this. They're like, we need to get this out, get it out fast.
They've had it on the shelf for a while. I think I mentioned it before, but this show was shot before Black Panther: Wakanda Forever came out.
That's wild.
2022. End of 2022 that movie came out. This show has been sitting on the shelf because they're like, when do we release this?
Almost 3 years.
Doesn't give me a good vote of confidence for this movie, or for the show. Dominique Thorne is back as Riri Williams. Obviously, showed up first in Wakanda Forever.
I actually really enjoyed her in Wakanda Forever. I didn't like the suit that much. I also feel like that's a weird inclusion in Wakanda Forever, like to have Riri Williams. That's your jumping off point. But I liked her enough in that movie to where I'm like, okay, maybe an Ironheart series is fine.
Yeah, I think I'm cool to see her pop up in other things. I don't know if we need a whole show.
No,
don't want to judge it before I see it, but basically just her creating an Iron Man suit, Ironheart suit, whatever. You got Anthony Ramos, looks like he's the villain in there. Alden Ehrenreich is also there, who I love seeing pop up and stuff because I think he's really good. So the first 3 episodes are coming out on June 24th, so tomorrow.
That's crazy.
On Tuesday. And then they're doing the final 3 episodes on July 1st. They should have just dropped all at once. Like, what's the point of like doing like a week apart or whatever?
Also by only doing 2 weeks of release, that just shows how little confidence and how quick they're like, we need to get this out and be done with it, and just worry about what we're doing with Doctor Doom and the next Avengers movies and Fantastic Four. It just feels so quickly like swept under the rug. Like, all right, get it out, move on.
This feels like one of the last shows that was part of the like, all right, everything is coming out on Disney Plus. And now they're kind of like, well, we already made it, and we kind of have to release it. So, like this, and I feel like Vision Quest is kind of in there, too, where it's like things that were greenlit before And now they're like, all right, we want to tone this back a little bit.
I feel like Vision Quest, they might have like a little bit of a gift of like, we took a while to get this developed, and now it's like we can rethink potentially things if we need to. Whereas Ironheart, it's like, oh no, this was shot and then made, and like the trailers haven't like fully sold me either. The first trailer I was like, it's fine. The second trailer I was like, I don't give a shit. Are you gonna be watching this tomorrow, you think?
Yeah, I'll see it. I'm a slave to watching MCU stuff, so I'm like, eh.
Are you setting yourself up to watch all 6 of it, or are you giving yourself a tap out point?
Oh, I'll watch all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately I watched all of She-Hulk and all of Miss Marvel, which I know you like. I don't like that show, but
Miss Marvel, I fucking love Miss Marvel. I thought you were talking about She-Hulk. I'm like, I didn't even watch She-Hulk.
No, yeah,
Miss Marvel, I love.
Yeah, so I'll definitely watch it.
I'm gonna give this show a 2-episode buffer. Like I'll watch the first 2, and I'll be like, if it's worth continuing on, then I'll continue on. But also, I'm like, the Disney Plus shows I'm just so tired of. I'm eager to see what the runtime is for these episodes. I feel like they're probably gonna be closer to like that 30-minute mark as opposed to like an hour.
I hope so.
That's
sure hope so.
I want it to be too.
I don't need
usually other shows I'm like, give me a fucking hour-long episode. This one I'm like, you can be a half.
I don't need 6 hours of Ironheart. I really don't.
Yeah. But looking into physical media roundup for this week, I actually purchased a couple of movies, which I wasn't initially planning on, but now that it's like the summer and it's June and almost actually July, getting into that summer movie mindset, there are a couple of movies that like really scream summer to me that I didn't previously own. So I went out and bought Transformers, the Michael Bay 2007 movie. I bought the 4K Blu-ray of it. I really enjoyed that movie. I saw it in theaters with 2 of my brothers and my cousin, and I was a 7-year-old, so I was fucking blown away by it. I love it. And it's when I saw it, it's so ingrained in my head that Transformers is a summer movie. Like, it's like Independence Day. Like, that is a summer movie. So I love that movie. I'm probably going to rewatch it here sometime soon. I also picked up, there was a TV movie done a while ago for an adaptation of Death of a Salesman written by Arthur Miller. And it is a Shout Select Blu-ray that I bought. It has, I almost said Anthony Hopkins. It's not Anthony Hopkins. Dustin Hoffman and John Malkovich. They both won, I think, Primetime Emmys for their performances. It's one of like the more kind of acclaimed adaptations of Death of a Salesman that I've been able to really access. I haven't seen this one, so I'm really excited to actually sit down and watch it just because Death of a Salesman, aside from maybe the first Dune book, is my favorite thing I've ever read. So I'm excited to watch that movie because I've never seen it.
Right on. Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but man, that first Transformers, we were 7 years old. Like you said, it was awesome. I don't think I saw the first one in theaters, but I remember seeing Revenge of the Fallen. And I saw it with my 2 brothers, and they had their girlfriends with them.
In 2009, 9-year-old Corey just fucking losing his shit.
Oh, yeah. And they probably just wanted to go with their girlfriends and see it, but I was probably like, no, I want to go see it. My mom's like, you probably take him away. Take the younger brother. And I'm like, let's go!
And they're like, fuck!
God damn it.
We had a plan for the night.
Yeah. But I remember, like those first couple Transformers, like they are what they are. They're fun.
Yeah,
they're a great time. But like you said, good summer. Just visual effects actually really good.
Visual effects still hold up remarkably well.
Yeah, they look great. I did not buy anything this week, but we do actually have a pretty big release week coming up here. We have The Monkey, and Novocaine, a Minecraft movie, Snow White, and Ephus. So a lot of big releases from earlier this year. I actually really like the Steelbook for Novocaine. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I like that movie enough. The Monkey, I don't know if I'll buy. A Minecraft movie, I'm interested in. And Snow White, I talked about last week.
The Monkey and Long Legs, I've been really wanting to rewatch. Mostly Long Legs. Because I want to see if that movie improves after, like, on a rewatch, just because I now know what the entire movie is. The Monkey I was so disappointed by this past year, and I want to rewatch it to see if it improves. It's similar to Long Legs. I was so eagerly anticipating both of those movies directed by Oscar Perkins, and then I didn't like them that much. I liked Long Legs more than The Monkey, but I was so underwhelmed by both of them that I'm like, what the fuck? So I want to try and give them a second stab just to see if anything changes there. I'm so excited because the Steelbook I pre-ordered for the Minecraft movie will be coming hopefully this week, as well as the Blu-ray of Ephus. Ephus, I think, is now sitting at my number 3 spot of the year. It's just such a great, like, nostalgic not coming of age, but just like a hangout movie of like. I saw a review where people were talking about the movie and saying that there was no plot, which the movie is about two pickup baseball teams playing on their last home field for the final time. It's like, there's not going to be much plot beyond that. It's just guys hanging out and hitting balls. Like, it's a great time and drinking beer. Like,
I'm excited to see that. I'm going to borrow your Blu-ray, hopefully.
I'll probably bring it over next week just
Perfect.
so you can have it.
But yeah, we also had a couple library titles coming out, too. Lethal Weapon, coming out on 4K. Mouse Hunt, I know you love that movie.
Are you making a joke right now or not?
No.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I don't know if this is a weird joke, but I also didn't recollect if I've ever told you this. I love this fucking movie.
Yeah, you've told me that a lot of times. Like,
I watched this movie so many fucking times growing up about these two dumbasses trying to catch this mouse in this house and just shit goes awry nonstop. It's great slapstick. I love Mouse Hunt.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen it, so if I ever found that movie cheap, I'd definitely buy it.
Don't know if it holds up. It's straight nostalgia.
We also had Dark City and Road Trip on 4K as well. So a lot of options this week if you're looking to add stuff to your physical collection. Jumping into movie news now. Little trailer roundup for the week. We had a new trailer for The Naked Gun, which I think about half of this trailer worked for me. The other half, I was like, it's not quite the humor I wanted.
Yeah.
What I loved from the trailer is jokes of like the man's laughter instead of manslaughter. Like that's a Leslie Nielsen original Naked Gun joke.
Must be a good joke.
Yeah, and then there's a part where he's like, take a chair, and Pamela Anderson like takes the chair out of the room.
The office.
Like that's perfect humor for this franchise. And then there's other stuff where Liam Neeson just has to shit after eating a burrito.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, in some movies that can be funny, but in this movie it's not the humor I want.
It's just so different. Like, that was the thing going in when they announced the new Naked Gun. I'm like, what brand of humor are you going to go with? Is it going to be more like that Seth MacFarlane, like, this guy needs to shit his pants in a car? Or is it going to be more of that Leslie Nielsen tone, like, oh, take a seat, and then she walks out with a chair? Mm-hmm. Like, and you get, kind of like what you said, you kind of get a split of both of those styles of humor within this trailer, which I'm like, I love the one that is more in line with the Leslie Nielsen one. I think the other stuff can be funny, but it doesn't feel like it fits what they're doing with Naked Gun.
It feels like more of like the Ted movies or something.
It does.
It's funny there, but in this movie I'm like,
that's not what I want here.
I want the joke of Pamela Anderson cleaning the oven, and you see the shadows of that. That's a great joke. Like, that's hilarious. Yeah. We also had a trailer for The Toxic Avenger with Peter Dinklage playing the title character there. And I've actually never seen the original movie. I think there's like maybe 3 of them or something. You can guess that I'll probably watch them the week of.
I would happily sit down and watch at least the first one, because I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, but it looks fun. Is it acid he falls into or something? Whatever. I don't know. It turns into a fucking
melted blob
of shit.
Little fucking ogre.
He's just killing people, and I'm like, all right,
with a mop.
This will be fun. Like,
and you got Elijah Wood and Kevin Bacon in it. I'm like, this looks so perfect. Like,
good campy
horror movie.
Yeah. So I'm down for that. I think that's, what is that, August or?
I think so.
September, August?
It's a movie that's been like talked about. I think it's been like shown at different like not CinemaCon, but like different festivals over the past couple of years, and they've just been trying to get it out to theaters. And I'm like, I've heard about it for so long that I'm finally like, oh, finally a trailer.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it. It looks crazy, and I think most of the reviews that have come out about it so far have been largely positive and like, wow, this shit's nuts. So I'm like, all right, sold. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have a very specific audience.
Oh yeah, like Terrifier, and they mentioned that in the trailer, like from the studio that brought you Terrifier 3. I'm like, yeah.
So I'm excited for that one. And then the last big trailer is Deliver Me From Nowhere, or it might be called Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere.
I also don't know that.
Just do Deliver Me From Nowhere.
I don't need you to tell me who the movie's about. I'll figure it out myself.
We understand.
We know it's the Bruce Springsteen biopic.
Yeah. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one. I like Bruce Springsteen's music. I don't know that much about his life, really, compared to like Bob Dylan, who I knew a little bit about with A Complete Unknown last year. The main reason I'm excited for this movie, two, I guess, is Jeremy Allen White, I think, is a great actor, and I think he looks and sounds the part in this trailer, which looks awesome. Could be an Oscar nomination for him. And then Scott Cooper directing the movie, who I think is one of the most underrated directors. Crazy Heart is great. Sorry,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say The Pale Blue Eye from a couple years ago, I think is an awesome movie. And then he did Out of the Furnace.
Yeah, I think Out of the Furnace is pretty underrated. It was a good little thriller with Woody Harrelson and Christian Bale and Casey Affleck.
Antlers, also a very good movie. Came out
I forgot that he did that too.
COVID type time, so I think it got forgotten. But he's just always putting out good stuff. So I'm down for him directing. Kind of like how I was excited for James Mangold doing A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
I think the director coming in is like, okay, this is elevating it a lot.
Yeah, honestly, that is the thing that's kind of selling me the most on... Which I've... Now, after Googling it, it looks... I've seen conflicting things. I've seen Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, and I've just seen Deliver Me From Nowhere, which the title, Deliver Me From Nowhere, is fantastic. Just go with that. Excited for Jeremy Allen White, but Scott Cooper being here makes me more excited, even though I've mentioned a number of times on this podcast, I'm not a big musical biopic person because they're typically a lot of the same stuff, but I'm eager to see this as more like base level fan, I think, of the boss of Bruce Springsteen. I think, like, I knew Born in the USA, I knew that song, and then it was The Office talking about Michael Scott having tickets to the boss and then not actually having tickets to the boss. That really, like, made me aware of who this man was. I don't know a lot about his story, but I'm kind of intrigued, but mostly by Scott Cooper being attached to it. This might not be big news to a lot of people. This is massive news, I think, to me and Corey, and to other people that watch a lot of, like, YouTube movie reviews. Chris Stuckman has been working on a horror film for the past couple of years, and it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, record-breaking, like, crowd-funded on GoFundMe horror projects, movie projects of all time. His film Shelby Oaks, now that has been picked up by Neon and has been with Neon for, I think, almost a year, now has a release date for this upcoming October 3rd. Can't fucking wait. The suspense of, like, I will watch every one of his movie reviews and stick around to the tail end just for him to tell me, like, do you have any updates on Shelby Oaks? And now we finally have a concrete date of when we'll likely be able to see it, or hopefully be able to see it. I don't know if it's necessarily a full theatrical or if it's like a selectable or like a limited release. I'm hoping it's more like a wide release with it being Neon and that we're able to get it in a couple theaters near us so we can check it out. But I can't wait to see it. It's one of the movies that, like, when he was doing the GoFundMe, I donated to it and bought a Blu-ray, which the Blu-ray, it told on the website, like, you'll get it in February of 2025. It's fucking June. Movie hasn't come out yet, so, like, I'm not mad about it, but I'm just more like, I'm so eagerly anticipating this. Even if the movie's, like, okay, I'm still super excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been excited for this for so many years, and just to see, like, a YouTuber that we've been following for 10, 12 years, actually getting this out in theaters is great. Mike Flanagan is an executive producer on it, which is so cool, too. I know Chris Stuckman loves him and really respects him, so... Yeah, can't wait to see this one. Perfect October release for it. I'm glad we're getting a Halloween-type release for it, so I think it sounds sweet. Speaking of Mike Flanagan, he is writing the Clayface movie, which we've talked about for DC, and we got the cast for, or the main actor, Tom Rhys-Harries, who I was looking at his IMDb. I've only seen him in The Gentleman. I think he had a smaller role in that movie, the Guy Ritchie movie. But... I don't really know much about him, and I don't know how much you're going to see his face as Clayface. You know, he's just a kind of a toxic Avenger-looking blob as well.
Yeah.
But just cool to have an update on the movie. I'm actually kind of sneaky excited for this one. Mm-hmm. He was always a character that, like, I played as in the Lego Batman games, like running around Gotham just doing shit. But I was like, does he need his own movie? But with Mike Flanagan being there, and then just seeing him too, I'm like, all right, this could work.
Yeah, get maybe like more of like a horror spin on it. Gets me really excited. I'm sold on it. Like I said, or like you said, I don't really know much aside from like his role in The Gentleman, but. I'm excited about this. I'm really excited about the project. I just don't know 100% if... you might know this. I don't even know if it's been announced, if this is within the James Gunn DCU or if this is more like an Elseworlds thing, or even if it's Matt Reeves' DC.
I don't know for sure.
Because, like, he was in Creature Commandos, and I don't remember, like, if he was, like, dead or, like, he got blown up. He got blown up pretty good. So I'm like, is he still around, or...
Is that him?
Yeah. So I'm excited to see kind of, once we get closer and we get more news about where this film really takes place and if it's in one of the established universes or not, kind of what this is going to be like. Mike Flanagan being attached for the script has me really excited, so I can't wait to see it. The biggest chunk of news, arguably, from this past week was, if you're a Marvel fan at least, John Bernthal is going to be joining Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is going to be the fourth Spider-Man film with Tom Holland in the MCU, coming from Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton. John Bernthal, Punisher. We're getting him in an actual MCU movie, not just in the Daredevil Born Again series, which is really interesting. Just because I'm like, I wonder if we're going to see more Charlie Cox in the MCU movies, or if he's going to be more regulated to the Disney Plus shows as well. But John Bernthal as Punisher, it is something that's happened in the comics. There are some good comic runs from what I've known. I'm not going to act like I've read them because I haven't. But from what I've seen, there are some comic runs specifically that outline stories between the Punisher, Frank Castle, and Peter Parker. So I'm like really interested to see kind of where they're going and also just how this cast is filling out. We got, I think it was Sadie Sink also attached in this cast. She was mentioned or announced a while ago, but to see kind of who these characters are that everyone's going to be playing, but also now we have the Punisher in the mix. So how does that fit in with a Spider-Man that no one knows now is Peter Parker, but I'm excited. It's something that I didn't really anticipate or expect for a Spider-Man movie in the MCU.
Yeah, he broke out of his cage at the end of Daredevil Born
in
Again.
The dumbest fucking way. Like, hey, you should get over here. Come on, let me shake your fucking hand. The dumbest thing in that show.
So picking up probably where that leaves off,
or after the Punisher's. It'll be after the Punisher show or the special. We'll get that next year.
That's true. Yeah, so we'll see kind of where that leads into. I'm down. I hope they keep the violence with the Punisher and don't dumb down any of that.
That I'm interested to see if they have to nerf him at all or show he's using rubber bullets or what is he going to be? Is he a shield agent somehow now? What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, but this gives me hope that it is staying more street level of kind of that kind of crime. So I like that. I'm excited for the news. I think that'll be sweet. We did get a director shortlist for the 26th Bond movie, which I know we're both very excited for whenever that comes about. Yep. We don't have a James Bond yet, but a few directors that are on that list are Edward Berger, who did Conclave and All Quiet on the Western Front, Denis Villeneuve, Edgar Wright, Paul King, who did the Paddington movies and Wonka, and then Jonathan Nolan, the brother of Christopher Nolan. He's done. He wrote some of the Christopher Nolan's movies like Dark Knight Rises, and then he's done some TV stuff in the last few years, Westworld, and he directed some episodes of Fallout, which I really like, and then Person of Interest he actually created, which I think is a really good show. I haven't seen all of it, but I remember watching that on TV a lot. So, good list of names here. I mean, if any of these people were chosen, I think I'd be really okay with that. Paul King is the one interesting standout of family movies, really light and cheery, Paddington. Whereas the other ones have kind of done some darker and different tones, whereas he's kind of been in that family realm. But I'm down for all these people.
I think out of these 5 names, the pick that I want the most is Edward Berger. I'm that's a fantastic pick for a Bond film. Denis Villeneuve is my favorite director working today, but I think I'd rather have him do something else. I'd rather him just work within his own sandbox, finish up Dune, and go do what other original story, whatever else that kind of fits in better, or whatever he's passionate about, have him go do. If he's passionate about Bond 26, go do a Bond movie. Fine, it's probably going to be one of my favorite Bond movies in the franchise. Bond is my favorite franchise. No Time to Die is my favorite Bond film. I'm eagerly anticipating the new director, also the new casting, but also I'm really excited that we've had so much time to sit with how No Time to Die resolved, and with Daniel Craig leaving, I'm really happy with how it's kind of worked out. But I would be really thrilled with just about any one of these directors. Paul King is the one that's the most interesting, just because it's really? Okay. He's accomplished and he's done a great job, but it's just the most outside of what he's established to be good at. So I'm really intrigued by that possibility too. But Edward Berger would be my vote. Aside from the director shortlist casting announcement we got for just talking about Denis Villeneuve, but Dune 3, whether it's going to be called Dune 3 or Dune Messiah or whatever, they did announce the casting for Leto Atreides as well as his twin sister Ganima. I read the books and I never knew how to pronounce it, and I just wung it, so it's weird having to say it out loud because I've never said it out loud. But Paul and Chani's twin children. Nakoa Wolf Momoa, the son of Jason Momoa, play Leto Atreides as Leto Atreides II, and Ida Brooke will join as Gamina, whatever. I don't know how to say her name. So I'm pretty sold on these picks. I don't know if Nakoa Wolf Momoa has acted before. If Denis Villeneuve is feeling confident in him, then I don't see why we shouldn't. I do know, I think Ida Brooke has worked on the show Silo, which I haven't seen any of, but I've heard nothing but great things about the show as well as the books. But I'm excited. Any really development or any sort of announcement surrounding Dune 3 has me eagerly awaiting that movie even more than I already am. So, it works for me. Sure, I'm guessing they're not going to be in the biggest capacity, just knowing what I know from Dune Messiah and what kind of comes up next. I don't foresee them being massive characters within this movie.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm just excited for more updates. It is always interesting reading a book and then like you'll watch the movie or hear somebody else say it.
Yeah.
And I know like a lot of people had that with Harry Potter. I just remember like they were like, yeah, I read the books and it was like Hermione, and then the movies came out and it's like, no, it's Hermione, and they're like, oh, that took me a while to like
get used to.
To be like, oh, that's actually how they're saying it anyways. Yeah. So I'm excited for Dune Messiah. I think it's gonna be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, that's next year, right? That's
not June 26th. It would be December 2026. Isn't it the same?
Oh yeah, it's Dune and Avengers.
Yeah, they're the same like release. Maybe that same weekend.
Doomsday.
Doomsday. That's what it is. Yeah. That's gonna be crazy.
If they stay on that same schedule,
I kind of hope they don't.
I'd be down for both of them in like Christmas season.
I'm like, spread the love out. Let me go have like a good October. Like put Dune in October because I think the first one was in October at least. I almost prefer that, but who knows if they'll keep that same release schedule. That's a crazy weekend of Doomsday. But anyways, thank you for sitting and having some liquor drinks with us on another episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more in-depth movie reviews and news. I might eventually post a review to the Materialists. I have it sitting on my phone, like ready to post, but also haven't done it. And I saw that movie almost over a week and a half ago, so you might never see a review from it. But be sure to check out other reviews that we post there. In the world of film, it's not just about what happens on screen, but also about who's sitting next to you in the theater.
From Mason and I at Slate Night, that's a wrap.